So a few days back, TRAXXAS released the Hoss 4x4 VXL, and it's on the surface it's pretty interesting truck. It seems like a stopgap truck in between the TRAXXAS Max and the Stampede 4x4 VXL. It goes to around $480. So looks wise, I think it looks great. It has a more aggressive body style, so obviously it's already better looking than a Stampede 4x4. The body is reminiscent of the TRAXXAS Max or X Max. It's got some pretty nice bumpers, beefy bumpers. The tires, these new tires, actually look very nice. They sort of have a motocross look, like the Proline Badlands, which I think these will work out much better than the Stampede 4x4 VXL tires. New rims, they look pretty cool. Some faux bead locks in kind of this blackish chrome. The Max motor essentially uses the Stampede 4x4 VXL ESC, so the VXL 3S ESC, with the 540XL 2400 kV motor. So let's have a closer look at the drivetrain. As you can see here, it's basically the Stampede 4x4 slash 4x4 again. I've never had a problem with the diffs or the gears. They work great. Sometimes the diffs leak a bit, but however, what I do have a problem with, especially when you're charging $480 and it's supposed to be, kind of a brand new truck, is these drive shafts. If you're familiar with TRAXXAS vehicles, you'll definitely recognize these. These are the telescopic drive shafts that come in basically most of the 10th scale vehicles TRAXXAS makes, or the bashes at least. And these have proven to be problematic. If you're running brushed, then this is fine. But if you're running brushless, even with the stock 3500 kV motor setup that came stock with a VXL 10th scale TRAXXAS vehicles, you will know that these drive shafts do not hold up well to 3S LiPo and brushless. They will snap, usually around the yokes, and they will oval out. So with that in mind, even with the VXL 3S short can 3660 motor, your braking drive shaft, imagine what would happen if you crammed a bigger 3670 2400 kV motor in here. Sure, it'll probably be slower, but it's going to have a lot more torque, and when you're pulling on that trigger, when you're doing wheelies and stoppies, these drive shafts are going to be destroyed. You can also see they've included a steel spur gear stock, which I guess it's a nice upgrade, but personally I've never had a problem with the 32 pitch stock Stampede 4x4 spur gear. I think that spur gear is perfectly fine. Even on 4S, I do not think that this spur gear is needed. They do actually seem to a sort of sensitive or a cush drive. I'm not actually sure what it is, but it's a nice to have, and hopefully it's tuned properly so you can actually pop wheelies. Let's have a look at the chassis. You have new A-arms. These are different shaped A-arms. They might be the same mold as the cold weather, the new line of cold weather plastics that TRAXXAS have released. New bumpers as well. And the chassis, it's really similar to the Russell chassis, but from my understanding, it is not LCG. You can see here the diffs are hanging below the chassis rather than inline. From the looks of things, I really like this chassis. It's a little wider and a slightly longer, and all in all, I think it's just going to be a stronger chassis compared to the Stampede 4x4 one. Electronics wise, again, strange combination with the VXL 3S ESC. This guy I've had okay experiences with. It tends to run a bit hot. That's nice that they bundle the fan with it stock. Again, it's an okay ESC. The servo, on the other hand, I think it's time to step up the game. The TRAXXAS 2075, first of all, it's plastic geared. It's around 8 kilograms at 6 volts, and it's plastic geared throughout, which is a big problem because from experience, as soon as you run your truck a few times and it gets a bit dusty and dirty and your servo saver gets a bit gunked up, you're most likely going to break the gears in this on an impact. I think TRAXXAS should update this and put in at least a full metal geared servo and maybe like around the 10 to 12 kg range. I don't really care if it's slow, but at least kind of give your customers something that doesn't break that easily. When you're charging $480, and then the 540XL motor, the 36mm by 70mm 2400 kV brushless motor, This motor is okay. Again, in general, the Traxxas motors are only mediocre at best. They have plastic end bells. These wires are very stiff and they're not like silicone coated. It feels very cheap, and also they're not oversized bearings. It's serviceable, but yeah. Honestly, all in all, I guess it's okay. I only wish if they're charging $480, I would expect at least a better servo and better drive shaft, and essentially a proven but pretty much an old drivetrain. And also, one side note is the bearing size on the knuckles. I've had quite a few problems with the bearings themselves. They seem to like to blow out pretty quickly. It would have been nice to see if Traxxas upgraded the knuckles to fit bigger bearings so they hold up for longer. Just your proven Traxxas Ultra Shocks. However, it is interesting that they didn't include the shock guard like they did with the Stampede 4x4. I found that particular upgrade actually a lot more useful than I initially thought. Really helps with protecting the shocks. So, new receiver box. I actually don't quite like this particular setup because it's screwed straight into the chassis. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to unscrew everything and take all the electronics out without disconnecting anything and like clean the chassis and whatnot, but I don't quite like this design. I think it's just nicer to have a separate receiver box. Yeah, so you have your top qualifier TQI radio. Oh, and also this feature, that's, they advertise it as new and innovation, but honestly, it's nothing new. It was introduced when the X-Max came. It's nice. It has an internal roll cage. It does save your body quite a bit. It does obviously, again, have some problems with the body coming off on like a hard landing. And it's easy. It's nice to have, but I wouldn't call it anything new. It's not really a special feature at this point. Here we have a closer look, and these, to me, the knuckles and the C-hub look exactly the same as the Stampede 4x4. Drive shaft seems to be exact same as well. These are in fact cold weather molding. I'm not sure about the plastics. It's probably just the regular plastic. Built-in wheelie bar, a must-have if you're running this truck with that amount of torque. This is a nice addition, I have to say. This is a nice to-have that just keeps the body in, makes close to the chassis, stops it from being torn up. Traxxas battery tray, nothing to really harp on here. Not really a big fan of this retainer clip. Would have preferred to use battery straps, but it's been a Traxxas staple forever. Doesn't seem like they're going to change that anytime soon. Here we have a close-up render of the steering, and it is essentially again Stampede 4x4/4x4. Nothing special, nothing new, and again non-adjustable, all plastic. These bearings seem to hold up okay, but I've actually had to replace quite a few of these before in my Stampede 4x4. And then the servo saver itself, it works fine. You just have to keep it clean and make sure you don't get any grease or oil in it, because that'll attract a lot of dust, and when the dust gets stuck in this plastic servo saver, it will bind it up. I guess most technical specification, size-wise, it's comparable to the Stampede. It's about 20 millimeters longer, and it's got bigger wheels. And again, with these bigger wheels, so it's about so here's 133, and the Stampede's got 122 mil front and rear tires, and with that, again, those drive shafts probably not going to hold up too well with bigger tires and a torquier power plant. Personally, my Stampede, I use a slash chassis on my Stampede, which is essentially the same length as this. I do have bigger tires, and I just put an E-Max body on, so you can look at it like a monster slash in a way. And then the 60 mile an hour claim, again, this is just marketing BS personally, I think. This gearing is just stupid. And that motor, I feel like it's wasted running on 3S LiPo. It's a 4S capable motor, just run it on 4S. So yeah, in conclusion, I'll probably just ignore the Hoss entirely because it's a bit of a strange stopgap truck, and I don't think it's really necessary. You already have the Stampede 4x4 for like the 10th scale. And if you own the Stampede 4x4, you can just throw in the original slash high center of gravity chassis and put an E-Max body on to get the same wheelbase, and you essentially have the Hoss. And if you want something more than Hoss, go for the Max. I think the Max is a fantastic truck. It's super strong, it's got some nice big bore shocks, and a very solid drivetrain. So I feel like Traxxas released the trucks just to fill a gap in the market, which really wasn't necessary. But anyways, thanks for watching, and again, this is just my opinion. I don't own this truck. This is just from my personal experience and just looking at specs online. So thank you very much.